heartfelt namaste. I, Anuradha, would like to thank all of you for liking, sharing, subscribing to our YouTube and Spotify channels and writing in your comments and suggestions there. We all know that Jupiter is going to transit into the sign of Pisces, its own sign, on the 13th of April 2022. So along with it, it brings about a lot of expectations because this Jupiter is moving into its own sign, and a sign which is said to be very, very soft, a watery sign that helps us get a lot of achievements. Yes, the sign of Pisces brings around a lot of achievements, great achievements for people, because Guru, which is the one that gives us name and fame, then moves into the ocean of name and fame, bringing in international name and fame. This obviously is subject to the person concerned with Deshkal Patra. As the 12th house of the natural zodiac, Pisces is also the house of retreat. So it allows one to travel. Being a water sign, being the ocean, it gives people travel into far off places and countries. And being the sign which asks us to let go of things, this is also a time when we can move into an area of let go of things that is of no use in our life, and to embrace those things that bring about happiness and contentment and are kind of a new start. So this, being a dual sign, also is a transition phase from letting go of the old to embracing what is new. The 12th house as such, and the sign of Pisces with its ruler Jupiter, gives us the ability to do a lot of charity, because Jupiter is generous to begin with, and the 12th house says to donate. So a person can be very generous and give in charities, as Jupiter also denotes gold, and the 12th house talks about investments and expenditures. One can invest in gold, one can make investments in real estate, because Jupiter also aspects its house of exaltation, that is the sign of Cancer, that is the house of expectations and real estate. Jupiter is a soft planet. It brings us happiness from spouse and child and from elders also. This is a time when one can afford to be a lot more romantic than one is, and have those soft feelings towards people, enjoy certain part of life, albeit with your restrictions that you have around you. Jupiter also connects us to higher knowledge, and Pisces typically is the one which connects us to divinity. So for those who are studying on the path of higher knowledge, be it the education that we are after, or for that matter, the Apara Vidya, Pisces is a good place to cement those things. And moreover, go with the flow, be intuitive, understand where you're being led, and then go that side. So we begin with the effect of Jupiter for all the 12 lagnas when it transits into Pisces on 13th of April 2022. Jupiter for the Aries lagna is the 9th lord in the 12th house. So your knowledge, your Purva Punya helps you cement a good place in society. This is the chart that would be seen for the Aries lagna on that particular day as such. So when we talk about the ingress of Jupiter in that sign, we see that Jupiter is also aspecting the 4th house, and it is also aspecting the 8th house. The 4th house is the house of investments, happiness, new home, and the 8th house is the house which talks about your sudden windfalls, sudden money that you get, and Jupiter aspecting that house has the ability to bring in those things in life. Moreover, Jupiter would be with the 5th lord. So the 5th lord here is Sun, and then it would bring in a lot of name and fame for you also. This is a good place for a placement for Jupiter to begin with, and as time unfolds, one would realize that one would be able to become more and more secure and confident with the knowledge that you have. Be generous enough to share that knowledge and share your share of imagine. Let your imagination go wild, because Jupiter is also about ideas. And as the ideas come in your mind, if they are well supported with structure, if they are well aspected in your chart by a Saturn, then you also have the ability to put them on paper. Otherwise, those ideas could just be a way to escape reality, which would also lead to unnecessary expenditures. So be very careful when you are putting those ideas onto paper. First, get them sounded out and then make your investments in that area. Jupiter, as it also aspects your 12th house, 6th house, gives you the ability to not just change your habits of food or how to let go of things, the kind of dietary habits that you have. It also brings in your ability to be to do service in small dispensaries, to do service to people, which are very practical. And it would be good if you could donate something to these small dispensaries or small service oriented NGOs, which would be a remedial measure if there is a problem regarding Jupiter in your chart. As we move to the Taurus Lagna, for the Taurus sign, Jupiter is the lord of the 8th house and the 11th house. As the 8th lord, it can give you money. It can also bring in certain problems out in the open. However, because it's a benefic and it is transiting the 11th house, it will give more effects of the 11th house per se, as it is also your 4th lord. With your 4th lord, so it brings in enough money that you can have a nest egg, you can invest in a property per se. And with Jupiter aspecting your 5th house, it gives you an ability to be more convincing to people, because the 5th house is the house of oratorship, and Jupiter is a skillful person and it's a skillful orator. And when Jupiter is aspecting your 7th house, for those who are planning to get married, it's a good time. For those who are wanting to move into a partnership with others, that partnership can be very sudden and can be a long-term partnership, because and a profitable partnership at that, because Jupiter is placed in the 11th house and aspecting your 7th house. With Jupiter aspecting your 3rd house, you could have abundance of ideas, and Saturn is also aspecting your 3rd house. So that can give you a lot of ideas, and that can give you the perseverance to move forward, do good deeds, and start things with a lot of courage and endeavor. So this is a good year to come for you, because basically if the other factors in the chart give a good yoga, then you could be starting on something new on a partnership front. You could be planning to build a house, which would do good for you. You could also be spending a lot of time with your children, because Jupiter representing children also aspects your 5th house. So for those people, it is a good time. When we are talking about the 11th placement of Jupiter with the 4th lord, it brings in enough money for you to make yourself secure. When Jupiter is moving across the Gemini, for the Gemini Lagna, this movement of Jupiter in its own sign in the 10th house with the 3rd lord, again, brings in certain incomes due to a change in structure of your business. If you want to change your work pattern in a certain manner, it is a possibility, and that will bring you new or a different kind of business. Again, Jupiter, which is aspecting your 6th house, gives you the ability to be very strong in doing work. Service, selfless work is good enough, but if you do something which is long drawn, Jupiter is not going to give you money all of a sudden, but yes, that is a long drawn work that you do, and that will give you results on a later date, which will be very good for your business. Jupiter also is aspecting your 2nd house, and 2nd house talks about finance. And as I said, being aspected by Saturn also, certain change in financial situations can bring in a lot of money, or rather financial planning and restructurization of your assets can give in a lot of money. With Jupiter being in the 10th house with the third lord, as I said earlier, there can be change of there can be some change in your business which will yield a lot of good results. It will help you become achieve, help you achieve greater goals, and thereby giving you a lot of name and fame also. For the Cancer Lagna, Jupiter moves into the 9th house with the second lord. The 9th house talks about travel. The 9th house talks about movement into places like the religious places, and going and seeing, watching, or going to temples. All these areas of life that would be covered. The 9th house also talks about regularization of activities. That is, you're putting things into a routine. The 9th house is also about elders, and Sun, which is the lord of the second house, also representing family. So in this period, the family members will take a strong hold over you. Working with the elders in the family is also a part that you are likely to enjoy and come to with a lot of respect, and putting in certain traditions, because the 9th house is also the house of traditions. As I said, Jupiter also aspects your 5th house, and being the karak of the 5th house with the 5th lord of the natural kundali, it gives you a very strong sense of attraction towards knowledge, which is not the normal kind of education. It brings you to study, learn things which are beyond that can be seen as of now. It is also a time when your children will probably gain prominence, because Sun is a factor that gives you a lot of shine. Along with Jupiter, it shines like the gold. So it is kind of, probably it would so happen that your children would undergo a certain period of turmoil, after which they'll come out as a better being. They'll shine out as better people. So that is a period when they would be needing your support, your guidance. Be sure to be available for them. Jupiter, when aspecting the Lagna, makes a person secure, gives a person a lot of blessings. So this is a time when you have a lot of blessings. Be sure to be very nice and very humble with your elders, because Jupiter also represents them. And with Sun, it talks about people who are not just old in age, but who are also well advanced in the field of knowledge or spirituality. So getting their blessing is something that you would love to do, because that will help you in the next coming years. We move on to the Leo Lagna. For the Leo Lagna, Jupiter is placed in the 8th house with the Lord itself at the Advent. And at the Advent, that is the turning point, or that is what it signifies. So it's very important to see the Kundali of that day per se. So it is placed in the 8th house. The 8th house gives us sudden windfalls. It also takes us towards the spirituality. And here Jupiter being the 8th lord, aspecting the 4th house, the 8th house, and the being in the 8th house and the 12th house, with the aspect on the 2nd house, also gives a person a lot of money. And more so, this money can be a windfall per se. You have made good investments and you've left them as they were, and those have now turned into money paying schemes. There might have been certain LIC policies or such policies which will now mature for you and will give you good returns. Apart from that, when Jupiter is aspecting your 4th house with the Lagna Lord, you could be in a mode of constructing or reconstructing your home in a bigger and better manner. Before that, you could be wanting to go into a retreat, as it is placed in your 8th house, in some hilly area, doing some amount of charity, because the 12th house also relates to charity. So you could be doing certain amount of charity. You could be doing some service of sorts to others that will help you grow on a spiritual level. While you are on a spiritual quest or while you're on a spiritual journey, the charities that you make should not be revealed to people, because the eighth house specifically is all hidden. So these hidden qualities that you will do, or work that you will help you grow, and it will reflect on your second house also in ways that you may not even understand, or for that matter even me, because I would just say that material gain is must or will happen, but all of a sudden you can be you can be because it is also sun, you might get some recognition, you might be respected, and sudden recognition can happen which you never thought of, and you would be very happy with it. With Jupiter being in your eighth house, legacies can be a part coming your way. We move on for the Virgo Lagna. For the Virgo Lagna, Jupiter is placed in the seventh house. It is aspecting your Lagna, seventh house, which is its own house for that matter. With the 12th Lord aspecting your Lagna, it also aspects your your aspects your 11th house and your third house. Third house is the house of new beginnings. It is a house of new trials. With the 12th Lord, you can have some new beginnings to go with. And as I said, the Pisces sign is all about transformation and change. So there's something you are planning to work on your own, and that is likely to succeed if you have a strong structure in mind. In fact, when you draw certain boundaries before you plan things out, because Saturn aspecting your 11th house would not probably allow you to spread far and wide, but it does give you a structure. With Jupiter aspecting the 11th house with a particular thing in mind, when you start structuring yourself, that this is the area where I want to grow and this is what I have to do, you're likely to succeed much more, and for that matter faster also. As Jupiter is sitting with Sun being the karaka of name, fame, and it is also the karaka of ego. We know that Sun gets debilitated in the 7th house of the natural zodiac. So this could be taken as Sun, which is not very in its peak. It does not give a person lack of confidence. It just makes a person more soft. It makes a person more malleable, and it makes a person more easy to work with. So these are the qualities of transformation as the Pisces brings along with it, that you are likely to see happening in your own self. We move on to the 7th sign of the zodiac, the Libra sign. Libra talks about a person wanting to make friends with others, a person wanting to go out, be affluent, because it's an Aries sign. Saturn for you is in the 6th house. Sorry, Jupiter here for you in Pisces is in the 6th house. It aspects your 12th house. It aspects your 10th house. It also aspects your 2nd house. This is a good placement. Jupiter in the 6th house with the 11th Lord gives you enough material for thought of expansion in terms of business, in terms of work, and so it helps you in get the money. But I do have a point of contention that it is very important to tell you. Since it is with the 11th Lord in the 6th house, and it is a 6th Lord, so here it becomes very strong sign which talks about your health issues, because 6th house is the house of health. Unless and until you're working in a hospitable industry or hospitality industry, or you're working in some service, medical services, this Jupiter is very clearly telling you that it's a good phase to understand what you need to eat, how you need to regulate your food habits, because food habits are the ones that turn up as health habits on a later date. So not just exercising will do, you also need to have a good control over your food habits, because Sun also shows control. Letting it go berserk will not help you. With Jupiter aspecting the 10th house along with the 11th Lord, there is supposed to be growth in business. There's supposed to be growth in your income, in your regular income, as well as the income that you can save. So for both of it, it is a very good thing that you will have enough money to save, and that those savings are also likely to grow if you make proper investments, because when Jupiter aspects the 12th house, as I said earlier on in the video, it gives you an ability to make proper investments that will later on grow to a good phase. As it is talking about the 11th lord in the 6th house, for those students, extramarital relationships can also be seen on a rise. So you have to be very careful and not get too friendly with anybody outside your marriage. We move on for the Scorpio. For the Scorpio Lagna, the 5th lord returns to the 5th house with the 10th house. You might be picking up on career which is related to educating people, or it could be a career that can bring you a lot of name and fame. This is an area where you could be thinking of certain amount of changes, because the 5th house with the 10th lord also shows certain changes, structural changes, fundamental changes, and these are the ideas that are now coming into your mind, because Jupiter is fast moving towards that sign. It is on a atichari or a fast moving mode, so your imagination is also taking a good stroll down, and where you can bring in certain fundamental changes which will result in greater glory, greater transformation, and a lot of achievements and name that you can get. It is also a time when you would also want to enjoy life with all the hard work that you put in, and going to locales which are very exotic, which are different and away from the hustle bustle, is the call of the day with this Jupiter expecting you to move into that. And probably those few who are interested in the occult, because Scorpio does bring in a lot of occult to go with it. So for those who are interested in occult, moving into the mantra shakti, moving into areas where you can do yoga, you can retreat in those areas, is a good thought to hold on to and work towards. This will help you garner a lot of knowledge, because with Saturn also aspecting your 9th house and Jupiter, it gives you an ability to read, construct, and work towards a lot of good readings, good knowledge, or for that matter, higher education, the para and apara vidya both. So we move on to the Sagittarius Lagna. For the Sagittarius Lagna, Jupiter is the Lagna Lord. It moves into the 4th house, the house which brings it comfort and which brings it a lot of security. Jupiter is a planet that gives us plenty, with the 9th Lord being placed with it, and not forever, but as a starting point. This is a point where things will be more comfortable for you. You will be more happy with home and hearth. Probably you would want to beautify your home, you would want to work on your home, and your name and fame is likely to travel major places, more make yourself more big, because Jupiter is with sun, and it is also the karak of the 10th house aspecting your 10th house. So it is bringing you name and fame because of your knowledge, because of your expertise, and something that is just totally with you. With Jupiter aspecting your 8th house, you're more and more drawn towards remaining silent, because this 8th house is the house where one cuts off from others, does a lot of research. So you're more drawn towards research, you're more drawn towards working on things that others have not discovered till yet, because Jupiter is also aspecting your 12th house. It gives you a different kind of connect with not just people, but also with the divine. So you would be wanting to focus your attention on those areas also, but your career should also be on the rise because of the aspect of a benefic Jupiter. Because Jupiter is sitting in your 4th house, it is a probability that your bank balance, your security issues will be met with on a very different scale altogether. We move on to the Capricorn Lagna. For the Capricorn Lagna, it's the 12th Lord and the 3rd Lord uh, in the 3rd house. The 3rd house, as we all know, is the house of creativity. The 3rd house we know is the house of writing. The 3rd house is the house of short travels, and Jupiter being the 12th Lord also for you and aspecting your 9th house. Short travels for places that you consider to be important and places that you consider sacred will be a destination for you. It is the 3rd Lord of imagination. So you will have a lot of expansive ideas, and that are the ones that will help you grow on a public platform also, because Jupiter also aspects your 7th house, as this is a house that is about that gives you a public platform, and 3rd house and the 8th lord brings about a lot of transformation within you. Your interaction with people will help you change into a better person, and you might be traveling overseas also, because the 12th house and the 3rd house find a sudden connect. With Jupiter aspecting your 9th house, this is a time of higher education and higher learnings, as the 9th house and Jupiter both talk on the same lines. This is also a time when you would be drawn towards the old forms of life, old cultures, or old studies, and you can also be connected with them in very many ways. Today, we can also connect the 3rd house with the internet, global issues, and the 12th house also talks about the virtual reality as such. The 3rd house definitely does. So people who have a strong hold on virtual reality can make it really good in life, because it is also connecting with your 12th house, which is the house of name and fame. For the students who want to travel abroad to study on a higher basis, to gain higher knowledge, would be a good opportunity per se. Because after some time, Saturn would also be moving into your 12th, in your 2nd house, cutting you from your family. So that is a good period for you to go abroad. We talk about Jupiter for the Aquarius Lagna. This transit of Jupiter for the Aquarius Lagna is in the 2nd house, aspecting the 6th house, and also aspecting the 8th house and the 10th house. So 2, 6, 8, 10 getting involved definitely talks about sudden changes, sudden happenings in the world of finance and in your work and profession. There will be growth in your money for sure, but and as Jupiter starts initially with your 7th lord, so you will have not just money, but you will also have recognition or pad prapti per se. For this Lagna of Aquarius, Jupiter aspecting the 8th house gives you a retreat away from others, where you need to think about your fundamental issues, where you would be wanting to challenge what your goals actually are and what you want to achieve in life. And then when you set them, because the last pada of Purvabhadra definitely gives you an ability to be a little perplexed, but after it crosses into Uttarbhadra, it will give you a lot of stability. So this Purvabhadra period is a period where you can go into for a retreat and sort things out. As we talk about Jupiter's aspect in the 10th house, whenever Jupiter is aspecting the 10th house, it gives a lot of prominence to your career. So here your career will shine. You have done a lot of work with Jupiter being in the Lagna for you for some time. So this will all come to fructification now. And finally, we talk about Pisces Lagna, Jupiter Lagnesh returning home after a period of 12 years. It's a great period to begin with. And sitting with your 6th lord, you worked hard. It's time to shine in your life. Jupiter is also your 10th lord, and it is giving you a lot of luck. Albeit this luck will probably come around May, June, because when your sixth lord also is exalted in the seventh house, in the second house, it will give you a lot of money. But aspecting your seventh house, aspecting your fifth house, and aspecting your ninth house, which are again the houses which will bring you the name and fame per se. Jupiter, it is the karaka of money, but more so of name and fame. So your name and fame in your own profession is about to rise. Your children will also see a lot of shine in life, and it is a time that you make your children feel secure and happy also. With the ninth house also talking about your elders. And so learning some things, few things from elders which are not given to all, or having the blessings touching their feet, is a good remedial measure to go higher in life. So this is the way Jupiter is likely to unfold itself when we talk about its transiting the sign of Pisces for all the 12 lagnas. And now for some remedial measures. When Jupiter moves into the sign of Pisces, which is the 12th house of the natural zodiac, making investments which will yield good results is one way to go. Investing in gold is another way, because Jupiter talks about gold and 12th house talks about investments. And with being with Sun, it's talking about good quality of the metal. Worshipping Lord Shiva is also a good idea, because Jupiter and Sun together definitely denotes that. But charity is something that will yield the best results. As Vivekananda always says, charity should be done not because it will give us back, not for sure that it will give us back, but not because it will give us back, but we should. Charity for Jupiter is one of the best things one can do. Till we meet with you again, stay safe and do write in your comments.
Please hit the bell icon for fresh updates. Don't forget to like, share, and comment on the videos, and please subscribe to our channel.